The cage in the snowfield. The wind howled across the frozen plains of Virex 9, a dead planet long forgotten by most. Snow blew in heavy sheets, covering the ground in thick white. There were no birds, no animals, just silence and cold. But deep, in the snowy field stood a cage. It was made of old rusted metal. The bars were bent in places like something had tried to break free. Inside the cage lay a creature, a large alien wolf. Her fur, once dark and beautiful, was now dirty and covered in frost. Her body was thin, her eyes half closed. She was dying. Curled up against her belly were 3 tiny wolf cubs. They shivered, their little bodies pressed close to their mother. She kept them warm with what little strength she had left. She hadn't eaten in days. Her paws were bloody from clawing at the bars. But she didn't give up. Not as long as her cubs still breathed. Far across the field, a human man walked slowly through the snow. He wore a long coat and a scarf around his face. His boots crunched on the ice. He was a scavenger, searching for old machines, tools, or anything the Galactic Syndicate had left behind after their war. His name was Connor. He saw the cage from a distance and stopped. At first he thought it was some kind of trap. He had heard the stories about the deadly Syndicate wolves. They were used in war, strong, fast, impossible to control. Many soldiers had died trying. But now he saw something else. This wasn't a monster. This was a mother. Connor stepped closer. The big wolf didn't growl. She just looked up, her breathing heavy and slow. She didn't move, didn't even lift her head. The cubs whimpered softly, too weak to bark or cry. "Why would they leave you like this?" Connor whispered. He knelt by the cage and stared into her eyes. He saw no hate, no anger, just pain and something deeper, fear. She was scared. The lock on the cage was thick, frozen with ice. No one was meant to open it. No one was meant to care. Connor should have walked away. It wasn't his problem. The wolf was dangerous. She had probably killed before. Maybe even humans. But Connor didn't move. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small thermal blanket. He folded it and slowly pushed it through the bars. The mother wolf didn't bite. She didn't flinch. She used her muzzle to pull the blanket around her cubs. Connor watched in silence, then he stood up and turned away. He walked 5 steps through the snow. His boots crunched with every step. The wind was sharp on his face, but something inside him twisted. He stopped, then turned back. With a quiet sigh, he walked back to the cage. He pulled out his tool set and knelt beside the lock. His hands were cold, but he worked fast. The tools clicked, the metal creaked. Inside the cage, the wolf didn't move. She was too tired to fight. "Don't kill me when I open this," Connor said under his breath. He kept working. Time felt slow. The snow fell heavier now. He could barely see more than a few meters ahead. Then, click. The lock came loose. The cage door creaked as he opened it. Still, the wolf didn't move. Connor stepped back. "I'm not your enemy," he said. The mother wolf stood slowly. Her legs trembled. The cubs followed, weak and quiet. She looked at Connor again, then limped forward. Connor didn't run. He didn't raise his blaster. He just stood there, waiting. The wolf stepped out into the snow, her cubs behind her. She sniffed the air, then looked back at her broken cage. She gave a soft whimper. Connor watched her. "I don't know if you understand me," he said, "but I couldn't leave you there." She didn't answer, of course, but she didn't attack. She stood beside him for a moment, then slowly walked forward into the snow. Connor followed a few steps behind. Then he stopped. He looked up. In the sky, far above the storm clouds, a shadow moved, fast and silent. A Syndicate drone, watching, recording. The Syndicate never forgot their weapons. Connor's heart began to race. He looked at the wolf and her cubs. They weren't safe, not yet, and now, because of him, the chase had begun. The snow had stopped falling, but the silence was worse than before. Connor walked slowly through the forest near the snowfield, careful with every step. The mother wolf followed behind him, her cubs moving, like shadows at her side. None of them made a sound. The wind had calmed, but something else had taken its place. Danger. Above the clouds, the drone had vanished. But Connor knew better. Galactic Syndicate drones didn't just watch. They waited. And when the time was right, they called soldiers. He glanced over his shoulder. The wolf's legs were still shaking, but she kept walking. She hadn't attacked him. She could have, many times. Yet she didn't. Connor had only seen this kind of loyalty once before, in a human soldier's eyes many years ago. He had watched a man die protecting others even when he had no reason to. Now he saw the same look in this mother wolf. She would die for her cubs, but if she died, they would freeze, starve, be hunted. "We need shelter," Connor said, mostly to himself. Ahead, half covered in snow, was an old Syndicate outpost. It had been destroyed during the war. No power, no heat. But maybe, just maybe, it could hide them. He led the wolf and cubs toward the dark doorway. Inside, the walls were broken and glass crunched under his boots. A twisted metal beam leaned against one side, but the roof still held. No snow inside. That was enough. He pointed to a dark corner. "Stay there. Rest. I'll find food." The mother wolf laid down. Her cubs curled into her side, eyes closing. She didn't look at Connor as he turned to leave, but just before he stepped out, she gave a soft sound, low and quiet. He paused. It wasn't a growl, it was, "Thanks." Connor stepped outside and began searching. He found an old crate filled with rations, mostly dry protein sticks, but better than nothing. He also found a blanket half buried in snow. He shook it out and took it back inside. When he returned, the wolf opened one eye. He dropped the food in front of her, then wrapped the blanket over the cubs. They didn't wake. "You don't trust me yet." "That's fine," he said. "But I trust you. Don't make me regret it." Then he sat with his back to the wall, blaster on his lap. That night, he didn't sleep much, not because of the wolf, but because of the silence. Too quiet. At dawn, the sky turned pale blue. The mother wolf was awake before him. She stood by the door, sniffing the air. Her fur had regained some shine. Her legs looked stronger. Then she growled. Connor sat up fast. He grabbed his scope and looked outside through a crack in the wall. Nothing. Then, movement. Black shapes. 3. Syndicate soldiers. Moving fast. Quiet boots. Laser rifles. "There. Here," he whispered. The wolf growled again. She was ready to fight. "No," Connor said. "Not like this. You're not strong enough. They'll kill you and your cubs." She looked at him. Something in her eyes changed. She didn't want to leave, but she understood. Connor moved fast. He opened a trapdoor behind the broken wall, a secret storage pit, probably for stolen weapons once. Now it was their only chance. Inside, now. The wolf hesitated, then walked in. One by one, her cubs followed. He closed the door and covered it with snow-covered metal. Then he waited. The Syndicate soldiers entered the outpost minutes later. Connor stood alone. He had a tool belt on and an old datapad in his hand. He acted like a scrapper, just digging. For tech, one soldier pointed a gun at him. "You've seen anything unusual?" Connor raised an eyebrow. "Unusual? On Virex 9? Everything's unusual." The soldier didn't smile. A drone picked up a heat signal. "Living creature. Dangerous." Connor shrugged. "Could have been me. I was out yesterday. Found a crate. Used a heat flare to check if food was frozen." The soldier scanned him. "No. Weapon registered in your ID tag." "I don't register mine." Now the soldier frowned. He stepped closer. Connor felt his hand twitch. He could grab his blaster, but then what? Die in 1 second? That wouldn't help the wolf or her cubs. "I'll ask again," the soldier said. "Did you see anything move?" Connor looked him straight in the eyes. "No, Just me. And snow. The soldier held the stare, then finally turned away. They left without searching. When the sounds of their boots were gone, Connor dropped to his knees and opened the trapdoor. The wolf jumped out fast, teeth bared, then stopped. She saw Connor's face. Smelled no blood. He wasn't hurt. He had protected her. The mother wolf looked at him differently now. She walked up, close. Her nose touched his hand. Not a bite. Not a warning, a promise. From this moment on, she would protect him too. Connor moved fast through the frozen woods, snow crunching under his boots. The mother wolf ran beside him now, stronger than before. Her cubs followed close, each step a fight against the cold wind. The old syndicate outpost was far behind them. Now, they had to keep moving, because the soldiers would come back. This time they wouldn't ask questions. They would bring the blood trackers. Connor had only heard stories. Hybrid beasts bred by the syndicate. Half machine, half monster. They didn't stop. They didn't feel pain. And they could smell fear from a mile away. The mother wolf smelled them first. She stopped suddenly, her ears up, her nose twitching. Connor turned. The wind had shifted. A strange smell touched his nose, like burning metal mixed with wet earth. "They're close," he said. The mother growled low. Connor pointed toward the West Hills. "There's an old mining tunnel. I saw it on the maps. If we make it there, we can hide deep, maybe even block the entrance." The wolf didn't wait for more words. She ran. The cubs followed. Connor ran after them, heart pounding. The wind picked up. The clouds above turned dark. A storm was coming, but not one of snow. Behind them, 2 blood trackers ran on all fours. Their black metal legs moved fast over snow and ice. Their red eyes glowed through the storm. Each had a long, whip-like tail with a blade at the end. Their chests were armored and their mouths opened in rows of sharp steel-tipped teeth. They didn't bark. They didn't roar. They hunted in silence. The syndicate soldiers followed behind in hoverbikes, their visors scanning heat signs. One soldier grinned. "They're running." "Good." "They won't get far," another said. "Not from the blood. Trackers." Connor slipped once on the ice but didn't stop. The tunnel entrance came into view, a dark hole between 2 jagged rocks. It looked deep, like it could lead down into the mountain itself. "Inside," he shouted. The mother wolf dashed in first, her cubs behind her. Connor dove in last just as the first blood tracker appeared at the edge of the hill. The beast stopped. It sniffed the air. Then it screamed. A high-pitched sound like metal ripping apart. Connor lit a flare and held it above his head. The tunnel was long, broken in places, but deep. "Keep going," he whispered to himself. They moved farther in. Old mining gear lay broken on the ground. Tools, carts, and rusty cables. The air smelled of dust and oil. Connor found a side chamber and pointed. "We'll stay here, just long enough to think." The wolf growled. She knew they didn't have long. Then the sound came. Claws on rock. The first blood tracker had entered the tunnel. Connor aimed his blaster toward the noise, but he knew it wasn't enough. He could shoot one, but not 2. And even one might not die from a single shot. He looked around, desperate. Then he saw it. Above the tunnel ceiling, an old support beam held a heavy load of rocks in place. If he could weaken the beam, the rocks would fall, trap the monsters inside, or trap them all. He looked at the wolf. "I need you to trust me." She watched him carefully, her yellow eyes glowing in the dark. Connor grabbed an old cutting torch from the wall. It still had fuel. He aimed it at the beam and fired it up. The tracker's claws echoed louder, closer. Sparks flew. The metal glowed red. Then, crack. The beam snapped. Connor pushed the wolf and cubs behind him as rocks fell. Boom. Dust filled the tunnel. Stone rained down like thunder. The trackers screamed. Then silence. When the dust cleared, the tunnel entrance was gone, sealed shut by rock. and rubble. Connor coughed hard, covering his mouth with a sleeve. The wolf licked one of her cubs clean. She looked at the man. She didn't growl. She didn't blink. Connor sat down on a rock and laughed, dry and tired. I'm either the luckiest guy alive, or the dumbest. The mother wolf padded over and sat beside him. She touched her head gently to his shoulder. He froze, not out of fear, but surprise. It was her way of saying, "You're one of us now." Outside, the syndicate soldiers stared at the sealed tunnel. One of them cursed. "The trackers are gone." "Not gone," the captain said coldly. "Just trapped." He turned to a floating comm drone. "Tell command the human interfered. Issue a new order." "What kind of order?" The captain's visor reflected the snow and broken sky. "Eliminate the man, and bring the wolf back alive." Darkness filled the collapsed tunnel. Thick dust hung in the air and cold silence followed the rockfall. But Connor and the wolf were still alive. The mother wolf sat near her cubs, licking one of them gently. All three pups were breathing, though weak. Connor leaned against a broken wall, rubbing ash from his face. He looked at the sealed entrance. We bought time, but not safety. The wolf turned her golden eyes toward him. She understood. Connor picked up a cracked mining light and flipped the switch. A weak beam of light flickered, casting long shadows on the tunnel wall. "We need to move deeper," he said, "before the syndicate finds another way in." The wolf stood. Her cubs followed, slow but steady. Connor led them through the old tunnel. Metal beams lined the walls. Broken lights hung from the ceiling. Signs in faded alien languages warned of active zones and deep core access. What were they mining here? Connor muttered. After a long walk, they reached a heavy metal door. Rust covered its surface, but it was still sealed. A control panel blinked with a single red light. Connor brushed snow off the buttons and tried a code. Nothing. He sighed. Then the wolf stepped forward. She raised her head and howled, not loud, not aggressive. It was almost like singing. The panel turned green. Click. The door slid open. Connor stared. What the? Inside was a large chamber, clean, warm, and glowing faint blue. Walls of strange crystal lined the room, humming with soft energy. Connor stepped in, blinking. This wasn't a mine. It was a lab. In the center stood a raised platform. On it, a glowing pod. Inside was a shape, another wolf, but different. Smaller, sleeker, silver, and glowing. The mother wolf padded forward, tail low. She let out a soft sound like mourning. She lay at the edge of the platform and placed her head against the glass. Connor looked at her, then the pod. Family? The crystals lit up brighter. A hidden terminal on the wall activated. A screen appeared, showing old syndicate logs. Connor tapped a button. Test 174. Wolf hybrid number 3 shows protective instincts stronger than predicted. Emotion bond forming between subject and offspring. Recommend termination of unit before behavior spreads to others. Connor's jaw clenched. Subject refused to obey termination order. Escaped facility with young. Unable to recapture due to loss of control over lower command drones. He looked back at the mother. She hadn't failed them. She had defied them. For her children. He whispered, "You weren't just a weapon. You were their best creation and their worst mistake." Suddenly, the chamber lights dimmed. The screen flashed red, alert. Unauthorized movement detected. Reinforcements en route. Connor swore. They found us again. The mother growled. Connor ran to the terminal and hit more buttons. Another section of the wall opened, revealing supplies. Food, water, tools. And one more thing. A map. Connor pulled it out. There's another way out. A hidden escape tunnel. He showed it to the wolf. She looked at it, then at him. She trusted him now. But before they left, the wolf walked back to the pod. She stared at the silver creature inside. Still, Asleep, frozen in time, she gave one last quiet whine, then turned away. She chose the living. Connor led the way, deeper into the chamber. A new tunnel opened at the back, lit with faint green lights. It led down into the rock, winding and narrow. Behind them, red lights pulsed. The syndicate was coming. Outside, high in the sky, a syndicate ship landed near the collapsed tunnel. Elite soldiers stepped out, silent, fast, deadly. The captain scanned the scene. Blood trackers confirmed lost, tunnel sealed. But energy readings say the lab was accessed. "Do we go in?" a soldier asked. The captain nodded. "We go in." He turned to the ship's AI unit. "Activate secondary clones. We bring back the female alive. Kill the human on sight." Inside the deep tunnel, Connor and the wolf reached a metal ladder. It led up to a final hatch, marked with faded paint. Emergency exit. S-13 Connor climbed first. He pushed the hatch with all his strength. It opened. Cold night air hit his face. Stars above. Wind howling. Freedom. He turned back and helped the cubs up one by one. Then the mother. She paused before stepping out, as if she knew this wouldn't end here. Then she climbed out, and beside her, the human who chose mercy over fear. Together they vanished into the snowy dark. But behind them, something in the lab stirred. The silver wolf inside the pod opened its glowing eyes. Far beneath the ice in the crystal lab the human and mother wolf had left behind, the glass pod blinked. Beep, beep, beep. The cryolocks on the pod clicked open. A hiss of cold air poured out. Inside, the silver wolf's eyes snapped wide, glowing, like polished metal under moonlight. It didn't growl. It didn't move fast. It listened. Then it stepped out. Its paws were silent on the steel floor. Unlike the mother wolf, this one had no scars, no dirt. It was perfect. Too perfect. The silver wolf looked around the empty chamber. Its tail twitched once, then its eyes locked on the crystal walls. A soft hum called to it, like a memory trapped in glass. It remembered. Warmth. A howl. A cub. A sister. Then pain. A lab. A cage. Needles. Then darkness. Now it was awake. It wasn't just a clone. It was something more. Miles away, Connor was struggling to light a fire. The small cave they found was dry, but the wind howled outside. Snow kept slipping into the entrance. The cubs huddled under his coat, while the mother wolf stood guard near the cave mouth. She didn't sleep. She hadn't since they escaped. Connor finally got a spark. The fire crackled to life. He leaned back, sighing. Warmth. Finally. He looked at the mother. "I'm guessing you never had the luxury of fire during your training, huh?" She didn't turn her head, but her ears twitched. He pulled a piece of dried meat from his bag and tossed it to her. She caught it in her mouth, chewed slowly, then walked over and laid down beside the fire. The cubs peeked out and crawled toward her. She wrapped her body around them, then gave Connor a long look. He smiled slightly. "Yeah, you're welcome." For a moment it felt peaceful. Then the mother growled, deep, low, serious. Connor grabbed his blaster. "What is it?" The wind outside changed. It didn't whistle. It buzzed. A low hum filled the air. Then, thump. Something heavy had landed outside. Connor crawled to the edge and peeked out. His heart stopped. A syndicate hovercraft. New, sleek, fully armed. 2 soldiers stepped out, then another. But behind them walked something different. Something unnatural. The silver wolf. Connor's blood turned cold. It moved like a shadow. Its legs didn't even leave tracks in the snow. Its head turned left, then right, searching. The mother wolf stood now, teeth bared. Her cubs trembled behind her. "What do they want?" Connor whispered. The silver wolf sniffed the air. Then it howled, not angry, Not loud, but sad. Like a broken memory reaching out. The mother wolf stepped forward. Her eyes widened. Recognition hit her. She took a step into the snow. Connor grabbed her fur. "What are you doing?" She looked at him softly. Then she howled back. The silver wolf froze. Its glowing eyes blinked twice. Then it stepped forward. The soldiers raised their rifles. The mother wolf growled. The silver wolf turned to the soldiers and leapt. Fast, silent. One soldier screamed. The other fired, missed. In 3 seconds, both were on the ground. Still, Connor stood there in shock. What just happened? The silver wolf turned slowly and walked toward the cave. The mother didn't move. The cubs whined. Then the silver wolf knelt down, touching its forehead to the ground. Submission. Connor couldn't believe it. "She knows you," he said. The mother stepped forward and sniffed. The silver one. Then she licked its face. The cubs came out slowly and sniffed too. One of them licked its metal fur. The silver wolf made a sound. Not a growl, not a whimper. Something like joy. Inside the abandoned Syndicate hovercraft, Connor found something shocking, a data core, still active. He powered it up and scrolled through the files. His eyes scanned quickly. Silver variant activated. Programmed to obey Alpha Unit. Subject 7F. Objective, force Alpha to return voluntarily. Alpha Unit shows signs of independent emotion control. Silver Wolf may be the last method to bring it back intact. Connor clenched his fists. They weren't here to kill her. They were here to trick her. He looked outside at the scene. The silver wolf curled around the cubs, the mother watching the sky. They created a sister-eyed not just to track her, but to break her. He closed the datapad. No more cages. No more labs. He turned to the wolves. "We move again. Far from here, as far as it takes." The mother stood. The silver one followed, and the cubs ran between them. They weren't soldiers anymore. They were a pack, and Connor was one of them. Snow fell softly across the mountains, covering old scars of battle with a blanket of white. Far below the clouds in a narrow canyon, a human and 4 wolves moved like shadows, silent, careful, watching every step. Connor led the way. Behind him walked the mother wolf, her cubs now stronger, tails up and ears alert. The silver wolf, sleek and glowing, kept close to the edge, eyes always scanning the sky. For days they had run, from Syndicate patrols, from drones, from death. Now they moved toward a place Connor had only heard about in whispers. The Forgotten Station, a human-built shelter, hidden during the war. It was their last hope. "We rest there," he said quietly. "And then, we fight." The silver wolf looked at him. Her eyes were not like the others. She was more than machine, but not fully wild. Still, she nodded. She understood. High above, in orbit around the planet, the Syndicate's command ship floated like a steel predator. Inside, the captain stood before a wall of red screens. "The Silver Unit has failed to retrieve Alpha," a voice said over comms. The captain didn't blink. "Then we send in the final asset. But the Omega class isn't ready. It doesn't need to be ready. It only needs to finish the job." A deep chamber lit up below the ship's decks. Inside, a large creature hung in chains, taller than any soldier. Built of bone, steel, and rage, the Omega Wolf. It had no eyes, just sensors. It didn't howl. It roared. It had no cubs to protect, only orders to kill. The next day, Connor spotted the station. It was hidden behind frozen rocks and cliffs, its entry sealed with old security locks. The mother wolf sniffed the air. No scent of soldiers. No recent movement. Good. Connor placed his hand on the scanner. The door creaked open. The Forgotten Station was still there. Dark, dusty, but whole. Inside were sleeping, Pudzum medical kits and an old reactor. He lit the lights. Warmth returned. "We'll rest here." he said. The cubs jumped onto a bed and curled up, finally calm. Connor sat beside the mother wolf and the silver one. He looked at them closely. "You're not just survivors," he said. "You're a family." The silver wolf leaned her head against his knee. It wasn't a weapons gesture. It was trust. But peace didn't last. That night, the mountain shook. Connor ran to the surface hatch and opened it. What he saw made his heart stop. A syndicate drop pod was crashing into the cliffs, black, wide, steaming. Then it exploded open. The Omega Wolf stepped out, 10 feet tall. 6 legs. Metal, jaws. It let out a sound like a dying engine mixed with thunder. Connor slammed the hatch shut. "Move! Now!" The wolves jumped up. The cubs yelped. The mother stood in front of them, ready to fight. The silver wolf growled loud, sparks flashing along her spine. Boom, boom, boom. Each footstep of the Omega shook the station walls. Connor grabbed an old energy rifle. "It's coming." He turned to the silver wolf. "This is what they made you for, isn't it?" She looked at him, and then she ran. Not away, toward the hatch. Connor chased her. "What are you doing?" But the mother wolf stopped him. She didn't growl. She didn't stop him with force. Just a look that said, "Let her do this." The silver wolf reached the top of the station just as the Omega roared again. She didn't wait. She attacked, claws out. Sparks flying, she leapt onto the beast's back, digging into metal plates. The Omega swung its tail, hit her hard. She crashed into the snow. Connor screamed. "No!" She stood again, bleeding, limping, but not broken. She ran forward again, bit into the Omega's throat. Electric blood sprayed. The Omega slammed her into the wall. She fell. Still, the Omega turned toward the station. But then, the mother wolf howled, loud, long, powerful, and the cubs, yes, even the cubs, howled with her. Omega paused for 1 second, 1 heartbeat, and then Connor pulled the trigger. He fired into a crack in the beast's armor, where the silver wolf had bitten. The shot burned deep. The Omega roared. Then, it collapsed. Snow and smoke rose into the sky. Silence returned. Connor dropped the rifle. "Is it dead?" The mother wolf walked past him. She reached the silver wolf, licked her face. No movement, no breath. She let out a soft cry. Connor walked over and knelt beside them. He placed a hand on the silver wolf's chest. Nothing. Then, a spark. Her eyes opened, weak, flickering, but alive. Connor smiled. "You crazy, brave, perfect girl." The silver wolf tried to sit up, failed, and leaned into him instead. That night they didn't sleep. They didn't run. They sat together near the fire inside the station. Connor. The mother wolf. The silver wolf. The cubs. A human. A pack. And for the first time, the syndicate was silent. But Connor knew they would return. And next time they wouldn't just send monsters, they'd send armies. But he also knew something else now. This family wouldn't run again. The syndicate returned, this time not with beasts, but with an army. Ships filled the sky. Steel wings blocked the sun. Troop carriers fell like fire across the frozen land. From orbit, the syndicate commander gave one command. Destroy the station, kill the human, retrieve the wolves, alive or dead. Alive or... But deep inside the forgotten station, something had changed. Connor was no longer running. He stood at the command deck, rewiring the old systems. Sparks flew. His hands moved fast. His face calm. "We hold the line," he said. Beside him stood the mother wolf, silent and still. The silver wolf, healed but scarred, watched the security screens. The cubs sat close, no longer afraid. They were not hiding anymore. They were waiting. Outside, the first wave of syndicate soldiers landed in the canyon. They moved in lines, armor shining, rifles raised. Combat bots followed, cold and perfect. Then they heard it. A howl. Not just one. Many, from the cliffs, from the trees, from every shadow. The syndicate had trained these wolves to kill, but they had never taught them how to love, how to protect. The mother wolf leapt first. The silver one followed like lightning. The cubs didn't stay back. They fought with teeth and fire in their hearts. Connor stood at the top of the station, rifle in hand, fire behind him. He shouted through the cold wind, "You came to take them? Come get them." The battle was brutal. Wolves danced through the soldiers, fast and deadly. Blades and bullets flew. Blood froze in the snow. Connor fought like a soldier from another time. Clever, calm, unbreakable. He covered the wolves, dragged injured bodies back, reloaded without fear. Then the second wave came. Heavy tanks, war drones, missile carriers. The syndicate meant to erase everything. Connor saw the end coming. He looked at the silver wolf. "We can't win this forever." She looked up at him, and for the first time she spoke, not with words, not with sound, but through the glowing blue crystal she once slept inside. His wristcom blinked, a signal, an energy reading from the lab deep underground, still connected. A weapon, nombre message, a signal powerful enough to reach every system across syndicate space. The truth, the videos, the files, the pain, the experiments, the betrayals. If Connor activated it, the galaxy would see everything the syndicate tried to hide. He ran, through gunfire, through smoke, back to the lab. The silver wolf and mother held the line. The cubs fought like fire side by side. The syndicate soldiers slowed. Some stopped. Some looked at the wolves and saw not monsters, but survivors. Some lowered their weapons. One soldier even dropped his gun. "They're not beasts," he whispered. "They're a family." Connor reached the core. His fingers flew across the screen. "Come on. Just one burst, one signal." The screen flashed green. Signal sent. All across space, on every station, in every corner of syndicate control. The truth exploded like light. Footage of cages, wolves crying, humans dying, experiments, betrayals, and then a human man kneeling beside a starving alien wolf, covering her cubs with his coat, fighting back armies, protecting life. A single sentence closed the message. They called her a weapon. I called her a mother. The syndicate ships paused. The soldiers froze. Across the battlefield, helmets came off. Guns hit the snow. The commander screamed orders, but no one listened anymore. The wolves didn't attack. They simply stood, bloodied, wounded, but proud. The human walked up the hill, standing between them and the last line of enemies. "I gave you a chance," Connor said. "Now the galaxy knows." The commander growled through the screen. "You'll regret this, human." Connor smiled. "No, you will." Days later, the syndicate began to fall apart. Protests, rebellions, trials. The forgotten station became a symbol of resistance, of unity, of family. Connor stayed in the mountains. He built a home there, not alone, with the mother wolf, the silver wolf, and 3 cubs who now ran fast and fearless through the snow, no longer afraid of humans, because one human changed everything. He didn't run. He didn't fight for glory. He simply made a choice to stand with the wolves.